Hi everyone, and welcome to this presentation on Opportunity in Crisis, Reflections on the Evolution of the 9/10 Mentoring Program during the COVID pandemic. My name is Claire McCann, and I work for the Rhodes University Community Engagement Division, located in the town of Makanda in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. At the Rhodes University Community Engagement Division, I coordinate a research group focused on one of our volunteer programs, the 9/10 Mentoring Program, which is also the subject of this presentation. I would like to start off with the insight of David Harrison, who claims that civil society or community organizations mobilized to protect and support families in distress during the COVID pandemic. But he says that they also did more than that. They used the crisis to promote social change and transformation. This is the subject of this presentation. It's not only looking at the response to a huge crisis and the barriers that arose from it, but it was also looking at the opportunity in crisis in terms of rethinking a model and reimagining the society we wanted in a post-pandemic world. So to start off with a bit of background, I'm taking you to the town of Makanda in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, which looks a bit like this. Makanda faces wicked problems of poverty, inequality, and high unemployment rates, and it is in fact located in the province with the highest rates of poverty in South Africa. Our inequality feels most pronounced in education. We are in a town with a university and some of the top private schools in the whole country, but just 6 kilometers east are schools with teacher shortages and scarce learning resources. And in fact, if we look back to about 2010 to 2012, we saw that learners in fee-paying public schools or private schools had a 3 in 4 chance of passing their final year well and entering a good university, so a really good chance. But if you look at learners who attend no-fee schools or schools that lack resources, the chance of passing at the same level was about less than 1 in 10, so a huge difference there. And as a result, Rhodes University often felt inaccessible to the majority of the Makanda population. In fact, in 2012, only 9 Rhodes University enrollments came from the no-fee schools, and the city pass rate was only 60%. So it felt like Makanda was not the education hub of our province, but seemed an example of educational dysfunction, where the university was not accessible to the majority of the population and not relevant to the lives of the community. As a result, then, the 9/10 Mentoring Program was born. Here, our Vice-Chancellor at Rhodes University wanted to position Rhodes University not just as existing in Makanda, but also for Makanda and of Makanda. So here, we're connecting the survival of Rhodes University to the town where we are located, based on the recognition that we are all interdependent, that in the spirit of Ubuntu in South Africa, there is a universal bond connecting all of us, and our survival depends on the survival of the people around us. 9/10 is about reaching the 9/10 of learners left behind, and it's based on the quote that 9/10 of education is encouragement. 9/10 is a mentoring program that pairs final year learners at no-fee schools with Rhodes University volunteers in mentoring relationships. So this is about one-on-one support and guidance through 9 contact sessions. This isn't tutoring, so it wasn't about Rhodes University volunteers coming in and teaching everyone the syllabus, but it was about mentoring and developing things like study skills, goal setting, personal plans, applying for university and career orientation to help learners cope with their final year of school and pass to their full potential and access post-secondary opportunities. 9/10 is fundamentally an asset-based model, so it's about building on the assets, experiences, and resources of our community and working with our community in partnership to achieve common goals. So here we work with the partner schools who bring physical capital in the form of venues and teacher coordinators. And we also work with an NGO called Gather Education, who brings a host of basic education experience and partnerships with all of the schools. And at Rhodes University, we bring the volunteer mass and the coordination of the program. Sessions happened at schools where face-to-face contact was so important because you're developing personal, deep mentoring relationships between Rhodes University students and learners. And as a result, we were starting to see a lot of improvement in the pass rates, and it seemed like we were witnessing a turnaround in education. And as a result, in 2020, we were hoping for the best year yet, and we had in fact just introduced a new school to the program. But then, of course, COVID hit, and we had to completely reimagine what we were doing. So with the advent of the COVID pandemic, our student volunteers were sent home, our learners were not attending school in a face-to-face format, and we had to try and shift to a virtual mentoring format, which faced many challenges. The most significant, of course, was the digital divide in South Africa, where very few people have access to things like Wi-Fi and electronics that enable online learning and online mentoring to take place. So we had to try and figure this out. We thought about the assets of young people and how young people are often able to connect very easily with one another using technology. So we thought, let's try connecting people using their phones. But a huge issue was the fact that many of the learners were located in areas with very poor Wi-Fi coverage, so we had to try and send them mobile data. But South Africa also has one of the most expensive mobile data rates in the world, so that was very difficult. There were also challenges in terms of access to phones. We found that for learners, it seemed that at least one person in their family had a phone, and then there would be some access. But often phones would go missing or would be stolen, and it would be very difficult to try and access learners and see what happened when they stopped replying. As a result, it often felt like people were falling through the cracks, and there was a case of blue ticking or lack of response on the part of both the learners, who we call mentees, as well as the Rhodes University volunteers. So that was difficult to monitor. And overall, there was a huge sense of discouragement when people felt like they were losing connection with one another. And there was a general sense, especially from those who were returning volunteers from previous years, that this experience just didn't feel the same or didn't feel as fulfilling as face-to-face interaction. So those were the challenges we faced, but there were also opportunities that came out of this pandemic. So one big opportunity was, with the rising cost of mobile data, we had to figure out a way, especially as the pandemic reached its second year, of reaching people. So that led to the installation of Wi-Fi in our partner schools, and hopefully this can be a resource that will be used in future years. The online model also meant that we were able to incorporate more learners and more Rhodes University mentors as the capacity of the program grew. What also resulted was a research group which added another dimension to this whole 9/10 program. This research group was a group of graduate or final year undergraduate students who decided to focus the research element of their degree on the 9/10 mentoring program to evaluate successes and challenges and future innovations of the program. COVID was an immense crisis and a tragedy, but as a result, it opened up a space for truly important reflection and imagination. It allowed us to grow the program in unanticipated directions, and the research group was a really good way to reflect on the program. And then another really important opportunity was that of new partners and stronger relationships. The challenge of COVID meant that we had to reach out to our partners more and improve our communication. But also with the rise of various online platforms, we had access to new partners, perhaps not those in our locality, but all around the world, and global partnerships became really important. We were so thrilled in 2021 to be the recipients of the McJanet Prize for Global Citizenship and the opportunities for partnership that came from this. And in fact, if you look at 2020 and 2021, we do see some of our best years yet. In 2021, we had an 83% pass rate in Makhanda, which was the highest yet, and it also surpassed the national average pass rate. And then, in a context where fewer than 250 people at our no-fee schools had achieved bachelor passes before, so those are passes that let people go to university, we had a huge increase from 230 in 2020 to 313 in 2021, which was never before seen. And a lot of that, I think, came from the opportunity and the crisis. So I would like to end off with words from David Harrison again. He says that COVID-19 has created new precedents and platforms for change, and we must now use those to the greatest effect. As we return or revert back to a certain kind of normal, the lessons learned and innovations catalyzed from the pandemic should not be lost. There are a space for us to reimagine how we do community engagement and deeply consider the society we wish to create. I am so excited to hear the opportunities that you come up with when we evaluate responses and innovations coming from the COVID pandemic. Thank you all very much.